Just a reminder that to everybody that we are, as always, recording this one. So whenever you're ready, Denver, take it away.
I'm assuming you can't hear me right now, can you?
Yeah.
You can. All right, perfect. Good evening, everyone. So great to virtually see you. Thank you so much for joining us on this icy Thursday. We are sending our best to our board member Lee, who is stuck in Texas with his families and loved ones during this unprecedented winter storm that our country is facing. So I hope that you send your thoughts and prayers to him and everyone else who is facing uncertainty, lack of electricity and water during these times. As we do per the beginning of all our virtual meetings, I will read a very lovely script. And please bear with me, and then we have a really great agenda before us. All right. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance of the Young Adults Advisory Council, known as the Council, needs to make certain findings and determinations to record for the record. I'm sorry, I'm going to zoom this in. There we go. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask you in advance for your patience. First, because each member of the council is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that there is a quorum of members, that a quorum of members is participating, that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at appropriate volume for all members to hear. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each council member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location in which you're participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following the roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. So starting off, Denver Supinder calling from Oakton. Muhammad Rahman.
I don't see Mohammed yet.
All right. Sarah Bufano. Let's see, Sarah. Kiana Simpkins.
Kiana Simpkins from Herndon, Virginia.
Thanks, Kiana. Casey Judge.
Casey Judge calling from Falls Church, Virginia.
Wonderful. Leslie Esquindo. Don't see Leslie. Natalia Denise Moody.
Natalia Moody calling from Fairfax, Virginia.
Wonderful. Sujit Kupla.
Sujit Kupla calling from Vienna, Virginia.
Wonderful. Anna McCoy. Don't see Anna. Diego Rodriguez Carrera.
Diego calling in from Alexandria, Virginia.
Wonderful, thank you. Melanie Marie Stover.
Melanie Stover calling in from Annandale, Virginia.
Jessica Sun. Jessica.
Indicated she wasn't going to be able to join, so they came up very quickly.
All right, and Lee will not be joining us. So then Dalton Bisson. We have Dalton on. We do not. Well, we do have 8 of our 15 members present, so we do have a quorum. At this point, I will pass the virtual gavel over to our secretary, Diego, so that I may be heard to make a requisite motion. And then I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of the council.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We are approved.
Okay. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures. The fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for our public meetings public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for the council to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meetings. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require physical assembly of the council and physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that the council may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video and audio conferencing line, and that the public may access this meeting by registering through the meeting link on the Young Adults Advisory Council website at https://fairfaxcounty.gov/administratives/young-adults-advisory-council-YAA, or by calling 1-844-621-3956 and entering access code 179-462-9161. Excuse me. It is so moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 It is so moved.
All right. Finally, it is required that all the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the emergency itself, are necessary for the continuing Fairfax County government and or statutory required and necessary to continue operations and discharge the council's lawful purpose, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
It is moved.
Awesome. All right, so once again, this is open to the public. We have not received any written comment in advance, nor has anyone signed up to speak. Anyone who's on the line who would like to speak can just put things in chat, and we're here, we're open council. So that being said, we already moved and approved the agenda, but I want to go back to that quickly. Are there any comments or concerns when it comes to the agenda? Wonderful. Seeing none, we will go ahead and proceed. Oops, I'm sorry. With today's agenda. So we are really lucky to be joined by the EDA Talent Survey crew. We are joined by, and I'm gonna call him Matt, and I totally did not mean to call him Matt earlier, but we are joined by Mike. Is Mike on still? Yeah, Mike Batt, who's going to give us an overview of what the EDA Talent Survey is doing, the economic and retention initiatives Fairfax County has been taking on in ensuring that we are retaining and recruiting talent in our area and making sure that those who are moving in the area can sustain themselves and contribute to our community as a whole. So without further ado, Mike.
Thank you, Denver. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to join everybody here, and looks like I can share now. Before I do share, let me just further introduce myself and a little bit more on what I want to share. And also, I hope that we can have an open dialogue too. And I welcome any and all feedback, recommendations, because that's what this is all about. Is how can we help each other? How can we help make sure that we retain and recruit talent, young talent here to Fairfax County? So just me as a background quickly, I'm a lifelong Fairfax County resident. I went to K through 12 here in Fairfax County. My kids went to K through 12 here in Fairfax County, and I've started down in the Alexandria Mount Vernon section, and now I've made my way through the years out here to Reston. So I've lived in most of the county as well. So I feel like I bring a lot of understanding to the county. And then received a degree from Marymount University in business administration many years ago, and had a very successful career in the technology industry, spending the last 23 of that at Microsoft. And so when the county, the Board of Supervisors, launched a talent initiative just a little over a year ago, I was lucky enough to take on this role and leverage all of that experience and history with the county to help. And so what I want to do is share a little bit about what we're doing. I hope I will share some great context as to how we're focusing and what we're doing specifically for your group, for the young adults and the young folks starting out with their careers. But please let me know, poke holes at it. Let me know if there's things missing so we can continue to add to it. What I want to do is let me bring up the deck here. You guys let me know when you can see it. Good to go. All right. By the way, I sent this to Graham and Denver for you guys. You can all have this deck, as well as the documents that I'm going to refer to. So I sent you the documents too, and I'll touch on that here in a minute. But first and foremost, if you guys aren't aware, what you're looking at in that little background picture there, that is a cool new campus for Capital One in Tysons. I mean, they're going to have, you know, beer gardens. They're going to have, it's open, it's a public open forum with all kinds of arts venues and all kinds of great stuff. So I encourage you to check out the videos. You can see them all online. It's a really cool place. Talking to Graham in Denver, just sort of getting acclimated to your group, and some of the things that she recommended that might be appealing and for you to understand, I want to share with you. I actually had we have a contract with Gartner, Talent Neuron. And so I asked our team to run some reports for us. So let me run through a little bit of this that I think will help you both say, hey, this is, you know, is a reason why you guys are on the council, but also to help spread the word. First and foremost, top left, 0 to 2 years right out of school here in Fairfax County, average median salary, $82,000, nationally, 56. Top right are the top job titles for those coming out of for opportunities coming out of school the first few years. And then bottom center shows you the total, the 8,800 current positions and sort of where they're, you know, the skill levels that those companies are looking for. I'm going to show you in a minute the top 20 for these companies. So you'll see them, and then I gave you the document. So you have the document of every single company and how many they're hiring right now for the 0 to 2s. And the next one's 3 to 7 years. So those getting into mid-level, you've got those salaries top left locally for us in Fairfax County, $124,000, nationally 82. Top right, you can see, and it's, you know, no surprise where most of the job opportunities are here in the tech, field. And then, you know, that bachelor's bar goes pretty bold there on the bottom center with 13,000 openings. So over 20,000 openings right now in Fairfax County. We ran the report this week. So this is new, fresh data on, you know, 20,000 plus jobs for those entry level through mid-level opportunities. What's cool next to look at is, all right, what are the top 20? Here's the top 20 employers hiring right now. The first one is, you'll see there, this is Fairfax County. So just these first 20, and I've sent you the spreadsheet, so you'll have the document that shows you, I don't remember what the total list is, but this is about 4,000 jobs, just these top 20. And you can see somewhere they're really ramping up hiring, and some are reducing it. And, you know, like GDIT, General Dynamics, could be because of a contract or something. So I wouldn't, if you see something like that, don't think, okay, these guys aren't hiring entry level, mid levels anymore. It could just be a historical contract scenario. And then when you expand it out, because I heard somebody's living in Alexandria, but one of the things we're doing here with the EDA is we're partnering with our Economic Development Authority peers across the region, really to promote the region as a great place to, you know, have a career and raise a family. So this expands it out to the 10 jurisdictions from Alexandria all the way to Prince William County, Loudoun, Arlington, Fairfax, the cities within. And you can see those numbers continue to grow there, and you can see the differences. Again, you've got the spreadsheet, so you'll have all of this data, but I thought it'd be interesting to share this at a high level, because I think it's pretty positive. It was even more positive than I thought as far as the numbers. It's a good percentage of the numbers out there, because right now, across the county, we have about 46,000 open jobs right now in Fairfax County. Across Northern Virginia, it's up over 90,000. So there is a huge opportunity, which is why the county created this talent initiative program, because we need to make sure we are retaining the talent, upgrading the talent, and recruiting new talent. If we want to keep these great companies that we have here, we need to make sure that we help them. And that's my full-time job, and really have the backing of the Board of Supervisors and the 40 of us that work within the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. Everybody is laser focused on this when they're out meeting with their companies. What they're doing in the EDA, for those of you that might not be familiar, we have a 40-person office. Most are out recruiting companies to the area, but also what they do is every year, each of them might touch 100 plus, where they have what's called retention visits, checking in on them. How's it going? We really appreciate you being here. Anything we can help you with and connecting you with the county and the resources there. And now it's on to, we also have started a talent program, and we want to help you recruit talent. We want to be an extension of your team. You guys sell your company, and we'll sell the region. A good partnership. So let me move on a little on what we're doing, just beyond that, now that I've shared some of that key data. When COVID kicked in, we shifted to virtual career fairs like most everybody now, but we really started quickly out of the gate. I had just taken on the role. COVID kicked in March, and we started developing the first career fair that next month. Fast forward through 4 career fairs that we've had over the last just under a year, about 9-10 months, we have 3,500 people that have been connected to our companies here that participate in these career fairs that we, the county, funded. And they rated them as interview, screen, or pipeline. 3,500 people that we're helping connect with our companies here. You can see middle top right there, one of the companies, it's a minority-owned 8A government contractor, SAMS. This is the CEO just raving about the great talent that we brought. I think I have a slide here that better pictures it for you. What we did is we brought together, this was our first one right out of the gate. We did a virtual college career fair, and we grabbed as many companies as we could quickly. Said, are you hiring college entry levels? They said, yep. We went to as many universities as we could find regionally and started to expand out, including the HBCUs, and had 1,000. It was amazing. We had we were all over the news for this as being innovative, and so we were on all the news channels and had 1,000 recent grads show up, because that was, again, remember, we were all trying to figure out how do we live this virtual life. Very successful event. Out of those 1,600 of them, again, were rated by those companies. Let's interview them, screen them, or put them in the pipeline to hire. Moving on to just fast forwarding over the ones we've done. This was a very successful event we just had 2 weeks ago, where we had 28 companies, and you can see them all there on the left. And we had about, where's the number there, 756 down at the 67% middle right there. That's how many, it shows how many started the registration, completed, and then how many attended. But out of those 756, they got to chat with 112 recruiters. So each of them were able to talk to at least 2 or 3 companies, which was great, with about 2,500 chats. And this was the first one, as I noted, was really laser focused, recent college grads. Let's make sure we're helping those coming out of school. This one we just had was just purely cyber tech virtual. It was everything from internships to veterans that had those high level security clearances, but still you can see some of the feedback from big companies, the AWSs, DocuSigns, Leidos, others, and on just, we see the reports and understand what they're looking for, and they all were thrilled to have internship opportunities and recent college hires to participate. So we're thrilled to be able to support that at no cost to our companies that are participating. Some other things we're doing to really get the word out, not only here locally, but nationally, is we're doing a lot of digital advertising. So we're engaging with those that are influencers. And you can see just through a number of young influencers out there that we were able to get 262,000 reach and influencing through these influencers that are at a national scale, that have a lot of followers. So those are just some of the creative things we're doing to point them to this site I'm going to show you here in a minute, workinnorthernvirginia.com. So here's the site. I will, if we have time and you guys would like, I'm happy to shift out and we can, sort of walk through the site, but I provided some screenshots with the links because I wanted to give you that and have those really readily available for you. But bottom line is we launched this talent initiative, this talent site last April. So we're not even a year into it yet. And we've launched this in partnership with our NOVA EDA partners. So again, touching on the jurisdictions around here, but we're running it here at Fairfax County. And in April, we had 300 or 400 that hit the site. Now we're averaging over 20,000 a month. And it's both here locally, and it's coming from all the regions that we know people are looking to maybe expand their careers. New York and LA and San Francisco, Seattle, lots of other places are now, we're doing digital advertising to those locations, and they're coming to this site. And it really has some good information, I think, for our young talent and others. But I want to show you, really focused on the young talent, and give us feedback. Tell me where we can improve on this, because we're adding content and investing in this on a daily basis. So right out of the gate, first thing, jobs. We talked about the salaries, the jobs, the companies, but you go to the workinnorthernvirginia.com, you can go to find a job right out of the gate. This is live from today. 1,600 internships are out there right now from companies here in the county looking for opportunities. And then job searching, you can search by about 6 or 7 different industries. I just clicked on finance if you're interested in finance, and I just did a search on entry level. And there were 20 that popped up for finance, but I'm sure there'd be a much larger number if we did that under tech or other positions out there. But know that this site's geared towards go find jobs. There's 90,000 jobs out on this site right now. Upscale programs. We have Melanie here from the council. We had Melanie, and we had from Northern Virginia Community College. We had George Mason University. We had a couple of really great apprenticeship companies, Reviture and Smooth Stack, where we did an event earlier this week out to our companies to promote, connect our companies with our universities, colleges, and internship or apprenticeship programs on ways to upskill. You might already have a college degree, and you might be saying, hey, I want to get into the cyber world. That's a hot market. There's tons of jobs. Go to the upskilling page here. There's resources to help you get different certifications and resources for upskilling and just continuing your education. Because we have so many universities and programs here and the colleges with NOVA that help you just continue your education long-term from an upskilling standpoint. One thing that's really cool too, we have Blaze Your Path, Meet the Trailblazers page, really focusing in on a lot of the young adults that we have here. There's only 3 or 4 on there right now because it's a heavy lift to do this. We really do justice to it. So we just completed one, or we're finishing it up to post it, but we just did one with a young adult that's working for Freddie Mac just in the last 2 weeks, and we're working on editing the filming of that and the content. We'll be posting that out on there on Meet the Trailblazers to really get exposure out there on the great careers folks might have, where they came from, what their journey was. So encourage you to go take a look at that Blaze Your Path section of the site as well. Entrepreneurs starting a business. I know Denver, we touched on this when we talked the other day. So I wanted to really provide some good content here for you. One is on the workinnorthernvirginia.com site, there's an entrepreneur page that connects you with starting up a business, that sends you to the Fairfax County starting a business. But I think even more importantly, and I'm going to work to make sure we connect them on the right side, this is something we've been doing for years. And I need to make sure it's better aligned and connected with our workinnorthernvirginia.com site, because right now it's on our Fairfax County or EDA.org site. So I gave you that link. But we do a monthly Entrepreneurship 101 session. I participated in a few just before when I started and just before COVID, and we all went virtual. And I'll tell you right now, it's at our office in Tyson's, every single month, there's 100 people that show up that want to start a business. And now since COVID, this is all virtual. I'd encourage you guys to take a look at that link. I think the next one's March 3rd, because Karen Small, that runs the diversity and entrepreneurship programs for us, she brings in SBA, she brings in lots of consultants and folks. There's an organization called SCORE that is great that we had them brief us just in the last week that can help mentor you. They are really seasoned folks that some of them have taken companies public, they've merged companies, sold companies, and they bring that free counseling to you to help you as a startup, a small business. And Karen, whose contact is there, is the person to engage. She leads that monthly Entrepreneurship 101 class, and then she can help schedule time for you to meet with any SCORE representatives that you can request the type of support that you're looking for, starting a business or legal or whatever it might be. And Karen is a great contact for that. Just moving on quickly, just want to make sure I touch on each of the key items that I think would be appealing to you from a young adults. There's the culture and activities section of the site, and again, it's really focusing on things on just how to get engaged and take advantage of all the culture and activities that we have here. That, of course, is down in Old Town Alexandria. That picture there in King Street, but there's all kinds of information out here on all the culture that we have throughout our Northern Virginia region. I think this might be one of the last ones. Living in Northern Virginia. What we have here too is some really cool things where you can take a quiz on find your community. Where do you want to live? If you want more urban or rural or wherever it might be, we go all the way out to Prince William, Loudoun, and some areas where you have that. But if you're like, hey, I want to be I want walking distance to a metro and whatever it might be, that sort of points you to the different neighborhoods that we have across all of our 10 jurisdictions out here. There's a cost of living calculators. I know Denver, you chose a lower cost of living location when we talked the other day. But that, I think it was down in North Carolina. But again, if folks come to this site, we all know that those of us that live here, how expensive it is. But if you're coming at this from Boston and New York and Seattle and LA and San Francisco and places like that, and do that cost of living calculator that takes into consideration things like the salaries that I showed you and our taxes and the cost of living, we are much more cost of living friendly than a lot of places around this country. There's really good information on commute times, commute time information, and then just diversity inclusion and all the different programs that we have there as well. So that's the site. I'll open up questions here in a second. A couple more things just before I close that I wanted to share that we're doing is we're also engaging different audiences through different organizations to, again, bring awareness to the region and what we have to offer for young adults through, veterans. There's 200,000 veterans that retire or transition out every year from the military. We want them to come here and have careers. We can't find enough folks to bring those security clearances, so we need those folks here as well. But Women in Technology, we're an annual sponsor there. The Black BDPA, which is a STEM association for African Americans, National Society of Black Engineers. We're working with the Virginia Values Veterans. The Northern Virginia Technology Council. If you haven't spent much time with them, they have been around a long time and they're very well run. Jennifer Taylor's their new president. And I've been coordinating with her and now going to be a co-chair for a new revamped HR committee they've had for a long time. It was focused on benefits. We're going to revamp it and kick it off next month, focused on filling the tech talent gap. And I think that's an opportunity for those of you that have interest to participate in that committee too, and make sure that we're covering, all areas of opportunities, being that council has most of the companies here in the region that focus on us, that are key for our business. And then lastly, just to show that we're really focused on everything from early student, reaching these students early, all the way through, as I noted, mid-career, late career. And I put the link under the register in the top left for you guys on the document I sent, so you can click on this. But Alexandria just sent me this just 2 days ago on an event that Arlington, Fairfax County are doing on a multi-day virtual career exploration fair. And so we will be participating in it. I've already signed up. I've already promoted it through NVTC because they want help bringing the companies in. So we're going to do a heavy lift and really focus on educating the students on the fact that STEM is a great field to be focused on. The opportunities here are endless. So again, what we're doing from our Northern Virginia, from EDA and the Talent Initiative Program, is promoting the region, making sure we're trying to touch and support talent across all spectrums of the workforce. And we want you to engage us. Let us know where we might be missing something. Let us know how we can help support your commission, your group here, your council. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Denver. And I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate your presentation. I will open up the floor to anyone who has questions.
Well, I think that again, I'll put the good word in for Melanie, who did a great job. Or we had about 60 companies that participated in our second talent webinar that we did. Really out there encouraging all of our companies to come together so we can educate them. Where it's every day we're introducing this to new organizations, but we had about 60 companies come participate in this upskilling event where we had George Mason and Melanie representing Northern Virginia Community College and a few others. And you did a great job, Melanie. And so I know hopefully you'll get some good opportunities from that for the college.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate that. And it's great to see you twice in a week. So that's great. I appreciate your presentation. I had one question for you. So as we're talking about talent attraction and retention, with the shift to remote work and many large tech companies and other companies saying that they may look long-term to offer remote work as an option, as a full-time for employees of their company, how do you see the EDA responding with the talent attraction and retention strategy where individuals may work for a company that's based here but may live in a different location?
You know, we're letting the companies know that are here that we're going to support them hire no matter where their employees are. So when you think about companies like Capital One and others that are here that have opportunities, Mars, we had Mars in an event the other day, headquarters here, but most of their locations are outside the region. We're let them know we want to help them hire because we appreciate their headquarters here. We appreciate them having presence here, but we'll help them wherever, knowing a lot of them are going virtual these days. But I think, you know, we're in uncharted waters here, and what we're also seeing are companies like my old company, Microsoft, where I was lucky enough to also be on the search committee where I brought them here to Fairfax County 20 plus years ago. There were about 100 of us in the Reston office, and now fast forward, they just signed a 500,000 square foot lease, and they're going to hire 1,500 more people, and most of those will be here in Reston. It's going to be engineering and operations and HR and lots of others. And so we're seeing the same thing with Google adding their new space here at the Wheeling Metro stop. And so I think we're going to have a mix. And those are two companies, by the way, that have both said, Google, Microsoft, you can work from home indefinitely, at least through 2021. And so, you know, we're going to have to just see where it goes, but we're letting them know we want to help you hire wherever you need the talent, and but know that the facilities that those type companies have are just amazing. I mean, Google had just hired a chef. They were having a 5-star, buffet every day for their employees. They've got the gyms. I think people are going to be coming back, but I think these companies are going to provide an option for their employees.
Mike, I have a question for you. The 13,000 jobs that are currently open, that struck me as just kind of staggering, you know, as and just in terms of the volume, the sheer number that are out there and are available right now. Could you talk a little bit about just that gap, that talent gap, because that seems to be a real. I mean, that's the, you know, I'm sure why you're here and doing what you do is that there is a gap. I don't think that it's as simple as, you know, just selecting the right major. You know what I mean? It's more than that. It has to be, I guess. But what do you find are some of those ways that, you know, either the EDA scene works in terms of trying to achieve, you know, trying to fill those jobs, or, you know, other lessons learned from other jurisdictions that have had some success in bridging that gap?
Sure. And what the number Graham just referenced to, by the way, that's just for that 0 to 2 and 3 to 7 years, 13,000.
Amazing.
I mean, it goes to the 90,000 when it talks about everything. So just focusing on young adults, 0 to 7 years out of school. There's a few things. We're really engaging with organizations. There's a company right here in Reston called Rock's Grad Staffing. That's a couple of George Mason graduates. It started at about 15 years ago. We had them in the first career fair. They help mentor students and help them with their resumes and help get them placements in companies. So we're really helping promote them out there. I'd say that's one of the key reasons we did this event we just did that Melanie participated in, because again, Nova has, you know, just one example, AWS cloud certification. That is just, that's gold to get that certification. Somebody might already have their degree, but because there's so many companies around here, out of those 13,000 jobs, I'll guarantee you thousands of them are looking for AWS cloud cert, for example. And so we're trying to make those connections and make sure people realize there's upskill opportunities, even if you come out of school and you already have a great degree from wherever it might be. Secondly, we're trying to connect those companies to say, hey, upskill your folks, leverage partnerships with Nova and Mason and others. But then we're also expanding that reach out around the country. We just did an event 2 weeks ago with the University of Southern Cal. And so their business school, they were thrilled to death when we said, we have 90,000 jobs here. And I didn't have the reporting that I showed you tonight, and the fact that 13,000 of them are for those coming right out of school, early in career. But they are really excited to engage with us. And so Victor Hoskins, that runs our Economic Development Authority, is a graduate of MIT and Dartmouth. He's connected us with those schools. So we're working our way around the country, developing partnerships to bring more talent here. I know this group here, you know, we need to keep the talent we have, and we need to make sure we retain the talent and make sure people realize the opportunities you have in this area. And then I'd say, just last point on your question, it's just the region as a whole, you know, and just the opportunities and everything that we have to offer in the culture and in this Mid-Atlantic region. But we're just trying new things. We're a year into the strategies and trying lots of different options, and we're going to just see which ones really bring us the best return on investment and invest even heavier in that moving forward.
Mike, I want to also, if someone else has a question, I don't need to take up space, actually. Does anyone else have a question?
I had just a quick question. Thank you, Mike, for that presentation. Very interesting to see what all you all are working on. In terms of the virtual career fairs, that seems like a great opportunity for people who might not be able to travel here and, you know, have that interaction with the companies in this area. Do you all plan on continuing the virtual opportunity after the pandemic as well, or are you going back to in-person?
You know, I think we will. We haven't gone into much depth on that, but I thought about it just the last few days when just the event we did this week with that Melanie participated in, I doubt we would have gotten 62 different recruiters to come to Tyson's, to our economic development office or wherever. And to your point, the virtual career fair we had, and I had feedback even from that first one where, somebody out of, I think it was Chicago, participated, recent college grad, and had a job offer within 2 weeks for 100K plus. So there's, I think, a good, strong justification to keep those, even if there's a mix, once we're all able to get back into some resemblance of normal lives moving forward. So I think it's a good question. I think we will do a lot more virtually. And that, by the way, the company that's just grown dramatically from this is Brazen out of Arlington, that they are the ones that were using their technology for the virtual career fairs. They do virtual conferences, virtual events, and their technology has been really good. Both our companies here were familiar and we're already using them, and the candidates and the applicants that applied, it's a very intuitive solution.
So I know we talked a lot about STEM, but when can I kind of want to switch to the STEAM model, recognizing the power of the arts and recognizing that a lot of our competition nationwide have a huge community, which is an appeal to young people with, retention and acquisition there. What are we doing as a region or as Fairfax County to support our artists? I know we have the workhouse, but that's on the far edges. And how can we better uplift these efforts? I know City of Alexandria has a huge art community, but how can we replicate that in our county to have that A in the C?
I think that's something that we need to put more effort into. I really I do not have a great answer on that one from the art side of things. I know there's arts focus within the county with organizations, but we have not been focusing on that enough because, again, if you look at those reports, we've just been so heavily focused on that tech sector where a majority of those jobs are. But you're right, we need to make sure we're touching on everything. And to that point, that's something I'm taking on and want to do a better job of, is to make sure that we share the diversity of opportunities here. It's not all about tech. There's lots of great nonprofits in the arts and pharmaceutical and other opportunities here. So I want to make sure that we better represent that across the county.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question. I know that upskilling can be an expensive process, and as a young person, right, you might not have the capital to invest in yourself, right? Especially if you think you are thinking about changing careers or thinking about moving towards STEM and you have a degree in humanities. So I guess, what are some of the support structures or, I guess, financing options that first generation college students have, and other young people in the area have?
I think, I'll give you a couple, and Melanie probably answer one of them better than I can because of what NOVA's doing, leveraging state and federal grants to help with some of the upskilling programs. So there are some solutions. I'll maybe even let you just even touch on that here in a second, Melanie. But another one is two of those organizations that we had to speak earlier this week that are here, headquartered in Fairfax County, Revature and SmoothStack. The way their model works is you take an aptitude test, and if you have the aptitude for getting certified in whatever it might be, some technology, some cyber, whatever it might be, they bring you on as an employee. And they, like day one, you're getting paid 50 plus with benefits while they put you through a 15-week training certification program, and then they place you with companies here. It's a really interesting, they're certified by Department of Labor at the state, and it's a really interesting model. But Melanie, maybe you add to what NOVA's doing as well.
Sure, I can hop in really quick. And Diego, I'd be happy to share more information too. So I know that Mike was talking about it specific to one of the initiatives we discussed earlier this week, which is Fast Forward. So Mike was, earlier had mentioned upskilling and access to short-term training programs to potentially pivot in your career or advance in your career. But often those short-term training programs are not eligible for financial aid, so they can make them very expensive and cost prohibitive out of pocket. But what the Virginia Community College system did a few years ago that I think is really innovative is they launched a program called Fast Forward that provides financial assistance to domicile Virginia residents to buy down the cost of that tuition by 2/3. So simplicity of math, $3,000 course now becomes $1,000. And all of these programs are required to demonstrate labor market demand. So like the data that Mike was sharing earlier, we have to show that any industry certifications we're offering actually lead to employment outcomes. So we focus primarily in IT and healthcare, but that's one example. And then also apprenticeship, I think we're starting to see pretty significant growth in that model in market.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think that might do us for this evening. Yes.
Denver, I can't help it. The planner in me wants to ask a plenary kind of question, if it's okay with y'all. One of the things that we're focusing on as a part of this the Young Adults Advisory Council is specifically placemaking. And I know that the EDA works with not just Fairfax County, but a lot of our neighboring jurisdictions. Some of them are more rural, like Loudoun, some are more urban, like Arlington. But how do you see Fairfax County kind of in isolation, so to speak, to the degree that we can, and how it competes for talent? Given that we certainly have places and we have some great places, but we're not quite urban, we're not quite suburbia either. We're kind of suburban urbanizing, so to speak. And because we lose out on talent to Arlington, to Alexandria, that are a bit more hip and happening, so to speak, in the aggregate.
I'm not the expert on it, but I'll tell you what I understand and what I've grasped from my time here at the Economic Development Authority. We're working with some of the placemaking developers across the region to partner and better collaborate with them on how to promote placemaking. And one of the examples that was used was the Mosaic District in Maryfield, and really what's going on there from a placemaking now to even having, driverless shuttles taking you from the heart of Mosaic to the metro stop, for example, and just some of the creativity there. And then what Tyson's is really evolving into, from a walkable city with many different neighborhoods, from the Capital One location and many others. I'm drawing a blank on a few of them now because I used to drive past them every day, going to the Tyson's office, but been sitting here in Reston for quite some time. And then I think even Reston too will have that as the metro opens here later this year. So, but I know that we're working on it, and we're working on it with some large professional organizations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for being with us and bestowing your insights and wisdom with us today on us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it, Denver.
Of course, and we will share all the information that you shared with Graham and myself. And I believe that has your contact information. So can folks contact you?
Absolutely. Please reach out, provide feedback, let us know what we can do to better support you and all the different areas of focus.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too. Thanks.
You can stick around if you would like, of course, but.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Before we continue, I do want to say that if anyone has to leave, that you please let us know, because if you leave, we no longer have quorum and we will have to conclude the meeting. So if anyone has to leave, please let us know in advance. Or if you have like a strong time, you're like, I have to leave at 8:15, let us know so we can conduct our business in a more speedily manner, but hopefully you all can stick with us until 8:30. Next up is Judith with a really wonderful report on the Civic Education and Outreach Subcommittee. I had the pleasure of meeting with them in their subcommittee meeting earlier this month, and he's going to do a quick report out for us.
Terrific. Thanks, Denver. Can everybody hear me? Great, great. Well, like Denver mentioned, a few weeks ago, we, as in the Civic Education and Outreach Subcommittee, held our first subcommittee meeting, and it was a wide-ranging, productive discussion where we were really able to explore a number of scoping questions about how we wanted to really structure our committee, lay out some of the different topics that we wanted to really examine as a subcommittee with respect to the type of output and recommendations that we wanted to give back and report to you all as well as the board itself. So I'll just run you through briefly in the interest of time some of the different scoping questions that we use to guide the subcommittee discussion. And number one, of course, it centers around the fact of what and how civic education actually affects young adults, and why is the subcommittee even choosing to focus on this as a topic. And number one, the subcommittee members really felt that civic education is central to any well-functioning, inclusive, well-educated county, whether that's Fairfax County or anywhere else. And the reason why it applies specifically to young adults is, I think research has shown through our own experience and through empirical data that better educated, more civically minded communities tend to attract a more informed citizenry. They tend to thrive better, and in due form, they attract young adults who want to not only stay in the county, but establish families as well as live and work. So that's why we chose to focus on civic education to start off with. Another question we explored was whether or not there was a disconnect between civic education and participation. And the subcommittee decided that and mentioned that there was a difference in that our county tends to be somewhat informed from a civic education standpoint, but where we might lack is from a participation standpoint. So there is a gap between how young adults and young professionals participate at the federal and state level compared to how they participate at the local level. And we were really interested in probing that local level participation and why that seems to be coming up short, particularly within young adults. And so this is another area that the subcommittee is going to be exploring. Next, we also wanted to really examine the challenges and opportunities associated with civic education, and as well as what the ramifications of how enhanced outreach, particularly to marginalized communities, underrepresented communities, and how that could really bolster the prospects for young adults in the county. I think everybody generally understands that there are disparities in the participation of different demographic levels across the county. There are certain communities who tend to participate more than others. And from this committee's standpoint, that's just unacceptable. I think we need to be, one of the focus areas of this committee is how to be promoting an equitable education and outreach level so that everybody and all young adults across the county feel like they are being reached out to and that they're being properly informed, and that will thereby drive better participation. So from an information standpoint, this relates to how we're going to be going out to actually gather this information. We wanted to really focus on what some neighboring jurisdictions are doing from a civic education and outreach perspective. Some of the subcommittee members mentioned that there are higher levels of participation from our neighbors and colleagues in Arlington County and the city of Falls Church and other neighboring counties who have a wider diaspora of young adult population, but they also participate more, and there's higher levels of civic participation. So we're really going to be looking to extract some best practices from our neighboring counties, try to drive some data around what they are doing compared to what we are not doing, to see if we can really reach and embody some of those best practices. So, you know, we're really excited about what we can achieve as a subcommittee, and feel like this subcommittee is really central to the work that we're going to be achieving together as a full committee. So Denver, I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks for carving some time for us to report out here.
Absolutely. Thank you for the great conversation and insights that you all had at your meeting. We can allocate probably like 3 to 5 minutes if anyone has any comments or questions. If you're okay with that.
Absolutely. Fire away.
Yep. Any comments or questions?
And if any of the subcommittee members who were on the call, if I missed anything or you have any additional commentary, feel free to pipe up. Thank you.
Okay, hearing nothing, we'll go ahead. This is a kind reminder that if your subcommittee has not met already, please get something scheduled and contact Graham to get those on the calendar. We do have to give a certain time window to notify the public because all our subcommittee meetings are public meetings. If you are not assigned to a subcommittee, we need you. We need you to be assigned. It's no fun for one person to pop in with only one other person in attendance. So, and just have a back and forth conversation. We need to bring your expertise and your insights and your diverse backgrounds to these spaces. So please sign up for a subcommittee if you're not already. Please do attend. We did do a survey of everyone on the best days for them to meet. And your chair should be organizing these meetings with Graham. With that, that's actually a really great transition to our next part of the agenda of how we're going to structure the Young Adult Advisory Council and how we are going to produce work through this committee and how that process will be streamlined or organized. I know we do have a PowerPoint. Graham, do you want to bring it up? So as we establish in the early parts of our meetings is we recognize that, you know, this hour and a half that we have monthly is not a space in which things will get dive down to deep into every issue and actually produce something, right? That's why we came forward with a subcommittee structure, and our subcommittees will be the backbone of our organizations with diving down deep into their various areas. So as you can see, we have our full YAA council and our subcommittees, but as we've seen, especially with the ZMOD, our actions are not limited to just those topics in our subcommittees, but we also can include other additional issues that come up. We are responding, you know, to the state of the county, and we can take those issues at a one-off as well. Any questions with that flow? Okay. And then obviously, as we heard to this evening, the subcommittees will report out. The subcommittees will make recommendations, put out for white papers, what have you, to the county, to us, right, for us to push then to the Board of Supervisors to be a proper voice and advocate for young adults throughout the county. So something that Graham and I discussed is the best way to get into the ear of the Board of Supervisors and have a captive audience is to report out to their Economic Initiatives Committee, which actually is all the board members, but is a space dedicated to that topic. And we go hand in hand with producing initiatives and recommendations and research and background on economic initiatives, especially how they relate to young adults. So this committee meets on a quarterly basis. So I'm recommending that we have quarterly recommendations to this board, and that those recommendations are then put together as an annual report at the end of the year that we present once again to that full committee and the board as a whole, and have it on a record of what we hope to see in the county as the council. Additionally, we will do member engagement and community organizations. This is something that we discussed and recognized, you know, we are a 15-member board currently, but we are in a county of 1.2 million plus people. And we should, you know, walk our talk, right? And we should be reaching out to communities and making sure we hear their voices, that we're advocating their voices in these spaces. And we can hit on that a little bit more in a minute. And then ultimately, our job is recommendations to Fairfax County overall, in general, outside of this quarterly report and annual report. We can also do one-offs, recommendations and letters, and general statements if we need to. Any questions about that? Graham, do you want to go in a little bit more?
Yeah, I was gonna, y'all remember Rebecca Maudry, who's the Director of Economic Initiatives. So I just wanted to give her a chance to jump in here.
Hi, everyone. Great structure. And I think that actually the last report out was probably a good place to consider other county initiatives for you to report out on or report out to. So the Economic Initiatives Committee does not necessarily meet quarterly. They meet approximately 3 times a year. So in terms of a report out directly to them, you know, Graham and I can also talk about other methods as opposed to, it doesn't necessarily have to be like at their committee meeting, which could be a challenge to do at every single meeting, honestly, but it could be out through other reports kind of maybe in advance of that meeting. And often committee meetings, the chairs ask that any presentations are very much focused on either program asks for the board to opine upon or provide direction to staff. So, you know, when there's a point where there's a very specific kind of need, I think that would be the point to come to the committee. But there's also, I mean, significant, of course, action going on elsewhere in the county. Other boards and authorities, for example, that you may complement and your work may relate to kind of things that they're doing. And in terms of the last update, there is a county group currently engaged in inclusive outreach, and they've developed, I believe, a series of recommendations and concepts. And so I'm sure that they would actually really appreciate your input. So that could be another method, you know, current, you know, work groups or kind of internal activities that would really benefit from having kind of your specific subcommittee findings or opinions. And actually also related to that, I was just thinking that you all may be really interested in a series of topics and recommendations that are going to be presented at the board meeting this coming Tuesday. So the chairman, Chairman McKay, set up the Task Force for Equity and Opportunity. And this was a very broad and high-level task force focused on equity. I happen to participate in that, so know that engagement and outreach is a fundamental part of their recommendations, and they're going to be reporting out to the board at the board meeting on Tuesday afternoon. Just a note, because you may hear a lot that resonates kind of with what you're thinking and that you could kind of build off of as well. So just a few thoughts about kind of the report out and engagement side.
Thank you. So I guess this would be a point of discussion. I know overall we are required to do an annual report to the board, right? End of the year, we're supposed to have an annual report. To the committee members, do you all want to have a quarterly update to the board that we produce to keep us on track and accountable to our actions, or do we only want to be focused on an annual report?
Denver, would you mind repeating that?
Yes, yes, yes. So our responsibility as the board is to have an annual report at the end of the year. So I guess the discussion and recognizing that the Economic Initiatives Committee, excuse me, doesn't meet on a regular basis 3 times a year. Do we want to take on the expectation that the council will have quarterly recommendations or updates to the board that then are composed into the annual report at the end of the year to keep us accountable and on track?
And the other option would just be one final recommendation at the end of the year as opposed to those quarterly updates?
Yes, and granted, we would be doing, different initiatives throughout the year, but it wouldn't be an overall comprehensive recommendation, as a check-in point as we're going along the year. And Graham, if I'm messing that up, if you're disagreeing with that structure, please let me know if it's not practical.
Yeah, so I guess my question would be, I mean, we can roll with what the council wants to do. I think that in terms of the recommendations as they're coming down, one of the things that we'll need to figure out is, the frequency of the meetings that we have right now. We have monthly meetings. And then in addition to that, we have monthly subcommittee meetings. So if we were going to move to a structure where we're providing more frequent, like three times a year, recommendations to the Economic Initiatives Committee, in terms of like a report out, my guess would be that we would need to meet more frequently, which might be problematic. So I'm just raising that as a point of not hesitation, but just clarification that if that is going to be kind of an expectation, we might need to think of it more frequent structure for meeting.
I think that if we're going to be providing recommendations on, different specific topics throughout, like if there's another ZMod project where we're going to be writing like a letter and providing our recommendations, that an annual overall report is fine. And then, we can have the scattered approaches as needed project specific during the year as well.
And Denver, one of the things that we had here in this structure right here, so in addition to having the annual report out, is I think what Casey is describing here, which is to have kind of that more nimble structure where we don't necessarily need to wait around for the end of the calendar year to provide recommendations to other BACs. BACs is just one of our many bazillion acronyms that we have in the county for boards, authorities, and commissions, of which we are one. But there are many. So the Planning Commission, for example, Denver testified at the Planning Commission last month on the ZMod proposal. So that's one example where our recommendations were very quickly turned around and over to a board. So I think that we would have some ability, depending on how the council wants to structure its work, we would have the ability to have more nimble recommendations that come out in a more timely fashion than just annually.
Absolutely. And I definitely think that process is viable. For those who have not, been in a subcommittee meeting yet, I think once you're in that space, you realize that these recommendations are going to come up quickly and that you all are going to, do research within your committee and propose different changes as your committee evolves. So it's not going to be, we're sitting here for 6 months fiddling our thumbs. We can definitely produce things on a regular basis based on the great work that our committees have been doing and are going to do. And we can just compile that at the end as our annual report.
And I agree, Denver. And Graham, I thought you made up a good point about being mindful of bandwidth and trying to be realistic about just how often groups are going to be able to meet and thereby actually produce results. So, I think that kind of iterative approach, just so that we're not all just collecting information in a vacuum and just holding on to it, I think that's going to be kind of nullified by the member engagement and the recommendations that we're making to the other BACs frequently, whereas the final annual report can be saved to the end. Information that we're doing more frequently can be slowly, siphoned to these other BACs in a much quicker way. It doesn't have to be in a formalized, fully buttoned up report like we're going to, I'm assuming, do at the end of the year, right? So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
one other piece to consider is actually the Young Adult Advisory Council, your council has a little web page on the Department of Economic Initiatives webpage. And there is a section under there, resolutions and positions, which is a really nice way for you to kind of like, collectively be adding work and, positions, resolutions, and other things that you may want to note that kind of came out of a subcommittee as just a rolling accounting of all the great work that you've done, as opposed to maybe a formal report, which does take, some work.
All right. Any other comments on this structure? So this is not like a formal movement. This is just like an understanding. So we're not going to vote on it. But just so we understand the power of subcommittees and power of your individual insights and talents and backgrounds coming into these spaces. As a part of that was the community engagement piece and recognizing, we represent hundreds of thousands of young adults in the council, in the county as council members. So something in my, typical after meeting email that I will do, I will create a Google form, one of my favorite things, to see if you all already are connected with organizations that represent young adults and our issues that we can bring into the mix and have these conversations with, to make sure that we are elevating their voices and making sure they have power and, and allies in this space as we're trying to make change and make Fairfax County more open and inclusive for young people. All right. So we do have a few more things, but I want to recognize that we only have about 17 minutes left. Before I do a quick chair rundown and just an update on the Planning Commission and a few other things, I think, Graham, are we okay with hopping into elections?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. All
right. So we are to elect a vice chair and a secretary. And we'll see if there's a nomination of a secretary. If not, we can have that conversation. But I know Lee Jackson did express that he was interested in continuing in the vice chair capacity. And I thus move him as a candidate for vice chair and would ask to see if there's a second.
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any floor nominations for vice chair? So floor nominations just coming from, the general body. All right, hearing none and having Lee have no competition in the race, he is our vice chair by acclamation. Congratulations, Lee. We will notify him via email. All right, and then we have the secretary position. Are there any nominations for secretary? And if there aren't any nominations for secretary, can we introduce Cedric? Graham, do you want to introduce him and explain how he might be?
I wanted to do this at the appropriate time, but Cedric Suzuki is a colleague of mine. He's another planner in DPD, just like Casey and just like me. Cedric works in my branch and is kind of our web guru, and also works on plan amendments. And he is also a young adult, and he's been very, very helpful on a lot of the projects that we've worked on as a part of our branch. And we're very pleased that he's going to be able to help out with kind of the structuring of the council and some of the work that we do on the back end of things. So Cedric, I think that we have, he's going to be able to help out in particular, kind of right off the bat with some note taking. I think we do, if we can, it would be good to have a secretary, somebody that is a part of the council that can kind of take meeting notes and act in that secretary function. But Cedric can absolutely help, and we can combine notes, and he can assist the secretary kind of in that role. So I hope that sweetens the pot a little bit.
Yes.
But and it's not the only thing that Cedric's going to do. He's going to help us out with research and most likely if time allows, help to facilitate some of the subcommittee meetings as well. So very pleased to have him on board.
Yeah. Cedric, do you want to say a few words real quick?
No, that's all good. Hi, everyone. Look forward to working with all of you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So hopefully that lightens the load to anyone considering running for secretary. With that being said, I will reopen the floor for secretary nominations, and self-nominations are accepted.
So with that new piece of information, I would like to nominate myself again. It's just that sometimes, because I work in a board office, there are many times where I have meetings that are conflicting with this one. And that was the biggest reason why I didn't want to rerun for this position, considering that there may be times that I'm just not available. But with that understanding, I would like to renominate myself for the position.
All right. Is there a second?
I second that.
Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, congratulations, Diego. Thank you so much for stepping up and being our secretary. Wonderful. So same team, hopefully we represent you well and we make you proud. With that being said, I do want to give a quick overview with the Planning Commission public hearing. I was able to present our council stance before the Planning Commission. It's about 11:45. It was midnight. They were there, I think, until like 2 in the morning, almost. So it was a very long night for them. But to no surprise, we were kind of a black sheep in that space, and we were, I will say, one of a few to be liberal of the presenters who actually took the stances that we did, and it was truly valued by the commissioners to have our voice in that space, and it started some really great conversations. I know community has responded to our recommendations and have really started broader considerations to the ZMOD. So I thank you all for your work in that space and for pushing those initiatives. We will continue to push. It goes before, Casey, when does it go before the Board of Supervisors?
On March 9th.
March 9th, and I'm sure I will be happy to testify there as well. But I know I've personally been in contact with a few board supervisors on top in regards to this, these recommendations to further explain the council stances and kind of support them in their decision making in preparation for that March meeting. So I hope that you all push the letter on your social media websites, with your friends, with your communities, share it to your own board supervisor, the person who appointed you as well, if you're an at-large. And hopefully we get those conversations started and we put that in the forefront of their minds because, this is a huge modification and overhaul of our code section that will last for decades. And we need to make sure we have that voice because this might be one of our only chances to be at the front line of these really hard and true changes in the county. So please share, spread the word, be an advocate. And you all can testify as well at the Planning Commission, at the Board of Supervisors as well. They are doing, because we're virtual, everything's virtual, they'll call you from a random number and you'll get freaked out because I have no idea who's calling me at 11:45 at night on a Tuesday. But that's them and they'll get you connected. And then you have, I believe, up to 5 minutes with the Planning Commission to speak. So I believe that will probably be the system with the Board of Supervisors. And I would also plan for a very long night in that space as well. And you can register in advance. So please note that these public hearing spaces are not just for the chair to speak on these issues, but you as a member can speak and then go, speak on our letters and our stances as well to further support those efforts. Any questions there? All right, and then finally I have 2 points that were brought to us. I believe Lee was really interested in, and I think we discussed quickly, I don't know if we actually discussed our last meeting, of asking the Board of Supervisors to amend our outline for the council and to add a member to our council to make a 16, and that extra member would be a representative from the Chamber of Commerce. I want to put that out there to hear your thoughts. And if you want to put any regulations or standards around that, I would say hopefully a member of the Chamber of Commerce that's within our age range would be great. But I want to put that out to the committee to see if there's any discussion.
Denver, I'm in support of that. My only question would be, I believe that there are a couple of chambers of commerce that are within Fairfax County and represent the region. So is that something that will be offered to all chambers or just one in particular?
That's a great question. And I might be incorrect in my assumption that the Nova Chamber represents the larger region, in which these more like Dulles Chamber, Reston Chamber, the smaller because I think we have API Chamber as well, are then represented under the Nova branch. Does anyone on the committee have insight on that?
I think that I don't want to speak on behalf of the chambers. I think that they work together and collaborate on key initiatives, but they are separate entities with their own membership bases.
They are very separate. There's actually more than 20 chambers in Fairfax County. But there is the Nova Chamber, which is kind of the overarching. And often the Nova Chamber has larger members. Their membership dues are just more expensive, so their members are typically larger. They don't represent, their members are typically not like smaller retails, just to kind of give you an idea. But they are a very important, entity in the region and certainly in the county.
So maybe the language that we can propose to the Board of Supervisors and asking for this change would be a member of any Chamber of Commerce located in Fairfax County who is within the age of our age bracket. So that suffice you all? Do we want to be specific? Or is that ambiguity okay? Yeah.
Denver, since it was Lee's proposal, it might be worth just bringing this up at the next meeting to see what his thoughts were in that, because I remember him mentioning that, and I think that it's certainly worth exploring. But given the structure of the chambers, it might be something we should think about in terms of how we do that outreach and make that representation to the board.
All right. With that, we will table it, and if anyone gets cozy with the chambers between now and next month and can report out on their system, that would be great. And then also, Diego, I think you recommended lowering the age. Am I correct, for our council to include high schoolers?
I don't know if I did that. Yeah, sorry about that.
Graham, do you recall who made that recommendation?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we had talked about was the idea of potentially picking up a slightly younger demographic. So I think that our current restriction, or the current age demographic, is between ages of 20 and 34. And so I think that there was some interest in seeing if that could be potentially lowered just a little bit, owing to the fact that there are you become an adult, and a young adult at that, when you're 18 years old in particular. So I think that was something that was discussed. I don't have the email pulled up immediately in front of me, so I don't want to represent it. But I think that was something that was discussed.
And there is a youth council, correct, in Fairfax County? Do we know the demographics of the youth council?
Can you take a look? I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I don't know if this is related, but actually when this council was just starting to be formed and you all were being nominated, one of our colleagues asked about the potential of including opportunity youth. And so opportunity youth, that this was from our neighborhood and community services group, and opportunity youth, I'm not completely sure. I was just trying to find out exactly kind of what that includes, but these may be young people who went through the foster system, underrepresented youth, and they actually really work closely with kind of a cohort of opportunity youth, and wanted to see the opportunity of maybe having one of, that kind of group represented on the council. So I would just say, if you're considering altering the kind of bylaws, you could take that into consideration as well. Something that Graham and I talked about was maybe having someone from that group maybe present or engage with the council in some way, but you may also consider actually a slot or a representative as well.
And I would just say that the representative from NCS who we spoke with about this, Lloyd Tucker, I know that he's also highly instrumental in this this equitable community-wide engagement strategy that Mike had referenced during his presentation as well. So I think that it would be a great opportunity to hear from him, not just about the Opportunity Youth, because I think that that's critically important, but there's going to be a lot of overlap with what that group is doing, and especially with our outreach efforts and what we're going to be doing in that space too. So he'd be a great person to hear from in particular.
So there's no need to take action on those two ideas with adding a chamber representative and then lowering the age, but I do want that to start a conversation, and we'll have it on the agenda for next month to discuss those in further detail. Please note, this was a experiment in a sense with Jeff McKay saying, hey, we need younger voices represented to make sure that our county is doing something things that can benefit and keep young people around. So they have great discretion. We have great discretion in what we do, and a great microphone to the Board of Supervisors if you do want to kind of adjust those structures and bylaws and add members. So if you feel as if a voice is missing in this space, we can always add them, or we can bring them into these meetings as partners. As we noted before, with our outreach to membership organizations and community organizations who are working on the issues that we're representing and uplifting. All right. So it's not on the agenda as official new business, but is there any new business or anything else that you all would like to cover as a council before we conclude this evening? All right. So before we close, once again, please engage with your subcommittees. You all are talents. That's where everything that we are going to push as a committee is going to start. It was really refreshing and lovely to be with the Civic Education Outreach Group. And I know they will have a list of recommendations and insights for us just in a matter of months, if not next month, right? So very excited for that. That's where everything is going to happen. So if you feel as if we're kind of stagnant right now, wait till you get into those meetings and things just flourish and bloom, and it's really a great environment. Just as a kind reminder, unfortunately, due to public meeting laws, we can only communicate with one person one-on-one. So if you have a question, you can message me directly, you can message Graham. Please do not message the entire board because that is a public meeting. And with 1 minute left, that's all I have. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I second the motion.
Oh, okay. I moved it and we seconded it. Okay, perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Stay warm, stay safe. If you are driving, please be safe. We need you. You guys are wonderful. And we will see you next month, if not in a subcommittee meeting.
Thank you all.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Have a good one.